2 years ago, we released our original MaxMSP processing Twitter parsing tutorial that looked at using the Twitter4j library to access and process data from Twitter by searching for a hashtag at a predetermined time. We have been playing about with this a little bit more, and we have now been able to add the streaming library that comes with Twitter4j into our processing sketch. So in this updated tutorial, we're looking at how to stream from Twitter, leave a window open, and every time that a key hashtag or word is referenced, we can get the data and use it however we want. An example of this would be, imagine triggering a sound or playing a movie clip whenever someone tweeted into a conference or a certain hashtag. The possibilities are limitless. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is download Twitter4j. Twitter4j.org, and it says it's the unofficial Java library for Twitter. Download the last stable version. So down here it's 4.0.7. And then when that's downloaded, I want you to unzip it. And when you unzip it, and if we wait for my mega slow internet. Right, so we open it. And then inside, you'll get all of this data. You have the entire Twitter4j library. But because processing is based on Java, we only need part of the library to make everything work. And it's not something that's supported by processing by default. So when you've downloaded it, you're going to expand the library tab. And we want these. We want the async core examples and stream. I want you to copy them and place them inside your documents, processing, libraries. Make a new one called Twitter4j or whatever you want the library to be called. Make a folder called library and then place all 4 of them in there and remove the dash and dots. So you have no punctuation in your file name at all, otherwise processing will freak out. So just to reiterate that is, I want you to go to your documents, processing, libraries, create a new folder called Twitter4j library or whatever. Inside that, make a new folder called library. And in that library, place your 4 files. And then you're going to need to go through them all and remove all the punctuation. Once you've done that, we are semi-ready to go. But because I've got 2, I'm going to move that one I've just created to trash. Once you've done that, you're also going to create a new processing file. So we're going to go processing, I'm going to make a new one, and then I'm instantly going to save it. And I'm going to save it in a very specific place. So I have all of my processings go into my Dropbox, programming for people, processing, and then I've got a file here called processing Twitter stream. I'm going to make my file name, so main sketch, save that. And then over here, in that folder, I'll have main sketch. Inside here, I want you to add code and paste those same 4 jar files into here. And these just means that there's a local reference that go everywhere with the code just in case something goes wrong. So now, restart your processing, reopen the main sketch.pd, and if you go to sketches and libraries, you'll see that Twitter4j does not appear, and that's because all we've done is we've given processing a way to reference those files. We've not actually done it yet. It's not an actual library built into processing. A way to check it's working is we want to import the library. So if we just type import Twitter4j.star semicolon, and that should import the whole library. It doesn't throw up any obvious errors, which is a really good sign for us here. And then we want our obvious void setup void draw as all processing sketches need, run it, and it doesn't break everything. A great sign. Although we have told it to import the entire Twitter4j library, so now we can get started by implementing our solution. Before you get started, you are going to need to go to the Twitter development platform, developer.twitter.com, and register for an account. You'll need to link it to an existing Twitter profile, and you'll also need to go through some stages where you explain to Twitter what you're wanting access to and why you're using their API. Once you've done that, you will be able to create apps that give you access to, if we look at one, you will get a consumer API key and as well as an access token. But if you refer back to the original video, that has much more details on the developer process, although it's changed slightly, the making of the app has not. So when you have your consumer keys and your access tokens, what these are basically saying that I want my own profile to be able to access Twitter in a read-only fashion. That's probably all you will get access to unless you're a paying subscriber or you have a business account with the developer platform. But for what we're doing, all we need is access to this. Because all we're going to do is access publicly available data and tweets to search for hashtags. Okay, so once we've got them installed, back into our processing sketch, we want to, built into this library we've just imported, is the Twitter stream object. So we are going to initiate the Twitter stream object with the name Twitter stream. So the Twitter stream object, Twitter stream name. In setup, we are going to call a function. So we're going to make a new function called void open Twitter. And then here we're going to call it, so open Twitter. So perfect. The fact that this doesn't error means that we're correctly accessing the part of the Twitter4j library that we need. We might need to come back here later and add some extra Twitter4j library parameters, such as the authorization when we get there, but for now this should be fine. So we've imported the library and we've initiated something called the Twitter stream object. In setup, we run our open Twitter function, and in here we're going to do all the heavy lifting. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create something called the configuration builder object. And that is exactly what it says on the tin. It is the part of the code that is a function. It's an object built into the Twitter4j library that goes and authenticates with Twitter properly. So it's capital C, configuration builder, capital B. And if you're using Java, normally you start variable names with a lowercase, or Twitter streamer here, and you start object names with an uppercase. So configuration builder and Twitter stream are both objects or classes inside Java. And both of them are handily put into the Twitter4j library. So you're going to want to start the configuration builder, give it a name, CB is a normal, and then we want to initialize it as well, configuration builder. So, I can't spell. So we initialize, or we declare a new configuration builder called CB, and then we initialize it with the constructor inside the configuration builder object, which is stored offsite somewhere else in the Twitter4j library. Then we need to give our configuration builder all our authentication. So if we look at the, sorry, my laptop's really struggling with the recording, Twitter4j config builder. So if we look at the Twitter4j reference, we can see that it is going to expect a bunch of, they can accept all of these tokens for a variety of different things. The ones we're going to look for are the set OAuth. So down here, we're going to set the OAuth consumer key secret, as well as our access token and access token secret. And they are all we need to be able to configure our single user app for Twitter. So in here, I'm going to do cb.set OAuth, capital O, capital A, consumer key, brackets, speech, brackets. And I'm going to do cb.set OAuth, consumer key, secret, brackets, speech, brackets, cb dot, there's a, so it says it doesn't exist, which means I've probably put a spelling mistake in it. It's just called consumer secret, not key, that's why. Set OAuth access token cb.set OAuth access token secret. Again, a good rule of thumb is if processing's not throwing up an error, it normally means that it's able to see it properly inside the library we're accessing, which is another good sign. And this is why we put it in both the processing documents library as well as in transport it in the code that goes with the patch or the sketch, because these errors wouldn't appear if the library wasn't hard baked into our processing documents, or the library wasn't hard baked into the documents folder. Okay, so now we have created our configuration builder. We need to give it our keys. So after this video goes live, these keys will no longer work. I'm sorry to say for you guys, if you want to copy it, you will need to go and make your own. They are like gold dust. So I'm going to copy and paste them all in. And I'm just going to delete because I knew I'd copied a space at the end there. Last one. Okay, in the background, we have prepared to connect to Twitter. We've built something called the configuration builder, set all our authentication keys. All we need to do now is ask Twitter if we can come in. So we use our Twitter stream object to do that. So we're going to do Twitter stream. So using the object we initialized, we now declare it. Or sorry, the one that we declared, we now initialize. So we do new Twitter stream factory, give it our configuration builder with the build command, get instance. One too many brackets. Okay, so now the Twitter stream object we declared up here, we initialize using something called the Twitter stream factory. We pass out our configuration builder with something called the build function, and then we do get instance. So this is attaching an authenticated version of access to Twitter to our Twitter stream object using these authentication values here. Again, if we run it, we won't see anything happen, but now, in theory, we will have connected or been refused access to Twitter. So let's check to see if that's happening. So down here, we'll do create builder for OAuth to Twitter. And init stream object with OAuth details. Okay, so I'm going to push Command T to format my code. Now what I have is I run Twitter, I run processing, it starts our sketch, imports the Twitter4j library, creates our Twitter stream object, jumps into our open Twitter function where it configures a builder to authenticate with Twitter, and then goes and asks Twitter if it can get in. A general rule of thumb is that if it gets to that stage and we don't see any red text down here, it normally means that it's actually successfully authenticated. Processing will error because the Twitter stream object will not correctly be able to get an instance, or it won't be able to run this get instance function that is built into it. So now we can proceed under the pretense that we think things are working. And the first thing we're going to do is the main point of this. We are going to search Twitter, or we're going to leave a gate open to Twitter, and every time that a keyword or a tweet comes in that contains our desired terms, we are going to do something. So for that, we're going to use the filter query object that's built into the stream API. Let's call it filtered is equal to new filter query configuration. So now we have a Twitter stream, we have a connection to Twitter called Twitter stream, and we're making a new object called filter query under filtered. Again, if you want any more information about the stuff we're using, so such as Twitter stream, configuration builder, or filter query, search Twitter4j filter query, and it will tell you the correct usage and what it's able to do for you. What do we want to search? Let's create an array that we can pass into our filter and get results out. So let's do string keywords is equal to so let's say I want to search for PFP test tweet. And in here you can search for multiple things. You just separate them by a comma and add them in. So you would do things like now we have made our keywords. We need to search for them. So we are going to filtered.track keywords. We pass our filter object our keywords. Okay, so now we pass our filter query our options, and we also pass it our keywords list. We need to process whatever Twitter would return when we ask it for the answer. So for this, we're going to come outside of our function and create something called status listener. Is a listener equal to new status listener. So what we are doing here is we're creating a new object from inside the Twitter4j library that specifically responds to whatever processing sends back. And inside here are going to be a bunch of public functions that we can call onto whenever we get information back. And as you can see, there's an error that says it must inherit it must implement the inherited abstract method status listener on stall warning. And that means that if something was to go wrong, we do a bunch of overrides that Twitter sends back to us. Basically, if we were asking for too much or too much was happening, it would say, I'm pausing you for X many seconds. So we do that first. So we're going to do override public void on stall warning warning, and then we're going to ask it to print out what it's getting. So we do system.out.println got stall warning. So these are all included in the documentation for Twitter4j. Whereas if we look at, so what's it, Twitter4j status listener. Let's have a look at its reference. So when we have a look at this, you can see that it's used by the super interface or stream listener, which basically means it's an extension of that. We attach stream listener to the status listener, and then we're able to get better formatted returns. We can see the modifiers and types that it's able to use, and we can see the onStall warning, called when receiving a stall warning, called when updating deleted method. We're actually probably going to need to use most of these. And you can see that it inherits OnException as well from StreamLister, what that means is that the method of OnException must also be inside this section of code. So we do OnException, and we do almost the exact same public void OnException exception x. My terrible spelling. So there we go. We now have a void OnException, and now it's telling us we need the onTrack limitation notice. So one of the other ones up here. So we just go, I'm going to go through the process of adding I'm going to add these 5 and then the 6th one, and then that will give us everything we need to deal with the results coming back from Twitter. So I'm going to quickly type them in. So this one that I'm adding in just now is the actual OnStatus, and it uses something called the status object. This is basically where we receive a tweet, we do something with it. So in here I'm going to put, this is where we do things. But we can also get the system to print it out. And the reason we're using system.out.print, it means that the errors or whatever is coming up is not coming from inside something processing has generated. It's coming from the instance that processing is creating of the Twitter streamer. And to put that in layman terms, this means that processing a Java program, and in the background behind it, it's opening a bunch of invisible applications that we can't see. And it's actually, we need to get the result from that to be able to do anything with the data. But we use the system.out.print to go and get whatever the system is telling us to work with. So now we can format it as if we were receiving stuff from tweets using the status objects variables. In this case, we can get status.getUser .getScreenName plus status.getText. Public void. What's the last one we need on scrub? Geo. On void, on scrub, geo. Along user ID, up to status ID. So the on scrub geo is if you were talking about one page returns for processing, the one page returns from processing. This is how we do it to the next page. So you might need to do search and to go through this next page. Is the text way of writing that? We will not need this. Print in. Scrub this. Scrub this. User ID plus up to status ID. Up to status ID. So we know just formatting properly that the Twitter library tell you. We need to have an inner status listener object to exist. So finally, we have something that will print out the results. Well, actually, we've not called it yet, so that won't work yet. Filter our keywords, and now we need to ask it to get a listener that will respond in these various ways. So we do Twitter stream dot add listener listener. And what should we use? We use if keywords dot length is equal to 0. So if we, for some reason, our keywords isn't read properly or it doesn't exist, we will use the Twitter stream dot sample. We'll use the built-in sample to the Twitter4j library. Else we will send it our filtered list. So we do Twitter stream dot filter filtered. Okay, generates a filter list for Twitter, creates a listener object to respond to Twitter messages, and then sends, or sorry, I should say opens a listener with keywords or default Twitter4j sample text to Twitter. AK will flow through listener when a tweet appears. Okay, so the flow of our code is now that we open Twitter, our configuration builder authenticates for us. We now have an object that is authenticated with Twitter. We generate a filter object that filters search queries properly for Twitter. It basically just makes a URL to ask for information back. That then returns a JSON library that is then parsed by our hidden Java instance of Twitter. We create something called the listener object. So now we understand how to properly listen for messages back from Twitter. We then ask Twitter if anything has updated on our terms. So if I format this and save it and run it, we don't get any errors. It's establishing a connection. There are no errors yet, which is a good sign. So establishing connection has been a returned message from our Twitter listener, which means that it started. So now if I tweet to one of these things, so if I bring up Twitter, open it in the right hand side, do I have Twitter open anywhere? I don't think so. So let's open Twitter. I am so sorry about how slow everything's running. My MacBook sounds like it's about to take off. So here's one that I tweeted earlier. So let's do the receiving status stream. So if I do hashtag PFP test tweet, this is a test for the latest video. Tweet it. You'll see instantly down here we get program for people. The user tweeted hashtag PFP test tweet. This is a test for the latest video. And in theory, I should be able to do hashtag hello. This is also a test for the new video. Tweet it. And I'll get that exact same thing. So because Program for People is a public account and I'm tweeting publicly with these hashtags, they will appear in here. And you can use that for anything. It doesn't need to be hashtags. You can search for keywords. But the more you bombard Twitter, the more that they're potentially going to limit your use. So here you go. You can see that we've had a random user has tweeted the hashtag, I think it was an image or an emoji, hashtag hi, hashtag hello, and it's coming through on our system. I'm going to delete the hello hashtag from this and run it again. What can you do with this? Well, the choice is yours. You can add another function in here, so you can use data. So add a function, use void data, that does something with that data that comes back in. You would probably want to pass it the status, and then we would do status. And then in here, I would look at the, let's bring this back to full screen, Twitter for J status. This will show you everything that you can get from it. So status. And in here, you can see that you can get all this information about what the status is, who it's from, user, if it's been retweeted, if it's been retweeted by you, is it cut off, do you need to get more text? Loads of things you can do with it. And then we have a bunch of videos teaching you how to pass it other place. One of the common things would be OSC, just triggering an OFC value that sends a number to something like maxMSP. And if I load a recent example that did the same thing, so this is where those tutorials come from. It includes the OSC P5 library. After the configuration, it also configures an OSC port. And then when we receive a piece of text, we send that piece of text into a new function and check to see that basically if it involves one of 4 certain hashtags, it then sends a value, and that value was being received in maxMSP to trigger something. So loads of options, but this has been a tutorial on how to properly stream data from Twitter rather than just get data from Twitter.